His fiancée moved his mother to the back table, so the waitress put the place card back. The first thing Mara Lane saw was not the diamond on Bianca Vale's finger, or the black-suited guards outside table 1, or the man every whisperer in Bellafiore called the most dangerous guest in Chicago. It was the ivory place card being moved. Bianca lifted it with 2 manicured fingers, as if the small folded card carried a stain. The card had been set at the head of the private dining room for an hour, beside the low-salt menu, the chamomile tea service, the thin silver fork Lucia Bellandi preferred because arthritis had made the heavier one unpleasant. Lucia Bellandi. Mara had written the name herself in the restaurant's careful black ink, not because she loved calligraphy, but because old women with powerful sons still deserved to be addressed correctly. Bianca slid the card away from the main table and handed it to a junior server. "Back table," she said. "Near the fern. She gets tired when too many people speak over her." The junior server froze. Mara did not. She crossed the dining room with a tray balanced against her hip, set down 3 water glasses without a splash, and took the ivory card from the junior server's nervous hand. "Mrs. Bellandi's place is here," Mara said. Bianca turned slowly. Mara placed the card back at the head of the table, exactly where it had been, between the teacup and the folded cream napkin. The room went quiet enough for the ice in the water pitcher to settle. Bianca Vale was beautiful in the expensive way that made rooms rearrange themselves around her. Her copper hair had been pinned into a smooth twist, her emerald dress fit like it had been stitched on her body, and her engagement ring threw tiny white fires across the tablecloth whenever she moved her hand. She was not yet Mrs. Nico Bellandi, but she had been practicing the role for months, and everyone at Bellafiore had learned the same rule. When Bianca asked for something, people found a way to make the request look reasonable. Mara had never been good at that kind of work. She was 34, the lead waitress for private dining, and she had spent 13 years learning the difference between service and surrender. Service meant remembering that Lucia Bellandi liked lemon peel beside her tea, not inside it. Service meant making sure the older woman's chair had a cushion without announcing why. Service meant knowing that the Bellandi men wanted the room cleared before they entered, while Mrs. Bellandi preferred to see a friendly face before the black coats arrived. Surrender meant pretending not to notice when a woman was being hidden. Mara did not surrender for a living. Bianca looked at the place card, then at Mara. "I gave an instruction." "I heard it." "Then why is that still there?" "Because Mrs. Bellandi's seating card is part of the confirmed table plan." "I changed the plan." Mara kept one hand on the back of Lucia's chair and the other close to her tray. Her fingers knew the weight of porcelain, wine stems, hot plates, bad tempers, and tips thrown at the floor. "You changed a card." "The plan was confirmed by the guest of honor." "Nico is the guest of honor. Tonight is for his mother." The junior server, Elias, took a small step backward. From the open service door, Mara heard the kitchen go still. Bellafiore's kitchen never went fully quiet, even after midnight. Oil hummed and dishwashers breathed steam through the walls. But the private dining staff knew when a mistake had stopped being a mistake and had become a test. Bianca smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of person used when she had already decided who would lose. "What is your name again?" "Mara Lane." "Mara." Bianca said it softly, then glanced at the headwaiter near the wine cabinet. "Does she usually argue with engaged members of the family?" The headwaiter, Mr. Pell, had worked at Bellafiore long enough to know how to survive wealthy people. He also had a mortgage, 2 daughters at community college, and no talent for heroism before dessert. "Mara is very careful with seating," he said. "That is not what I asked." Mara looked at Lucia Bellandi, who sat in a wheelchair beside the side entrance with her gloved hands folded in her lap. The older woman wore pearl earrings, a navy shawl, and a face that had learned to accept indignity quietly because arguing made powerful men feel useful. She was small, but she was not absent. Her eyes had followed the place card from the table to the junior server and back again to Mara's hand. When Mara had greeted her 20 minutes earlier, Lucia had smiled and said, "They always think the back of the room is kinder." Mara had asked, "Is it?" Lucia had replied, "Only to the people who do not want to look at me." That was why Mara did not move. "Mrs. Bellandi requested the head of the table," Mara said. She also requested the tea service on her right. She requested the aisle clear enough for her chair. She requested that the music stay low until after the first course. All of that is on the service sheet. Bianca's eyes cooled. Lucia requested comfort. "I am providing it." Comfort does not usually require moving someone's name. The emerald ring flashed again. Someone coughed in the kitchen. Bianca stepped closer, close enough that Mara could smell white flowers and cold expensive perfume. You are a waitress. Lead waitress. Then lead yourself back into the service corridor. Mara's smile was small, steady, and not kind enough to be mistaken for fear. After Mrs. Bellandi is seated. The private dining room doors opened. 2 men entered first. They wore black suits and the blank expressions of men who had been paid very well to have no opinions. Their eyes touched every exit, every window, every hand near a pocket or a knife. Behind them came Nico Bellandi. Mara had seen him twice before, always from a distance. Once through the front window, when he had stepped from a black SUV in rain so heavy that the street looked silver. Once from the mezzanine, when he had walked through the bar and made a room of rich men lower their voices without looking at them. He was taller than she remembered, 43 perhaps, with dark hair cut close at the sides, a clean-shaven jaw, and a black 3-piece suit beneath a long overcoat that should have looked theatrical on anyone else. On him, it looked like weather. A signet ring pressed heavy against his gloved hand. He had the stillness of someone who did not need to hurry because the world usually moved before he asked. His eyes went first to Bianca. Then to the place card. Then to his mother, waiting beside the side entrance instead of at the head of his table. Something in the room changed. Not loudly. Not violently. Not the way people imagined mafia men changed rooms, with shouting, guns, shattered glass, or someone being dragged through a door. Nico Bellandi changed the room by becoming more still than everyone else. Why is my mother by the side entrance? He asked. Bianca turned toward him, relief and irritation blending in her face. Darling, I was just arranging things properly. Lucia gets overwhelmed at the center. The back table is more peaceful. Lucia looked at her son, then looked down at her gloves. Mara saw it. So did Nico. He did not move toward Bianca. He moved toward his mother. The guards shifted with him. Mara put a hand slightly out, not touching Lucia, only marking space. Please mind the chair wheels, she said. One guard stopped so quickly his shoe squeaked. Nico's gaze moved to Mara. Who are you? Mara Lane. Lead waitress for private dining. Did you put that card back? Yes. Bianca gave a sharp laugh. She decided she knew better than family. Mara could feel every staff member in the room waiting for her to apologize. She did not blame them. People survived by learning when to become wallpaper. But Lucia Bellandi sat with her eyes on the table where her name had been returned, and Mara had never liked wallpaper. I decided the confirmed guest should not be moved without being asked, Mara said. Nico looked at the card, then at the teacup, then at the folded napkin, the low-salt menu, the cushion on the chair, the clean aisle. His face did not soften, but the room felt the first crack in his certainty. Ma, he said. Lucia lifted her eyes. He crouched beside her chair. It startled everyone, including Mara. Nico Bellandi did not kneel. He did not lower himself in public unless the gesture was tactical, threatening, or both. Yet he came down near his mother's eye line, one knee bent, one gloved hand resting on the edge of the chair arm without trapping her. Did you ask to sit there? He asked quietly. Bianca answered first. Nico, she told me earlier that she wanted less noise. Nico did not look away from his mother. I asked Ma. The words were not loud. They did not need to be. Lucia's mouth pressed into a thin line, and for a moment Mara saw the woman she must have been before age, grief, and men with strategies had wrapped her in politeness. I asked to sit where I could see my son. No one moved. Nico's hand tightened once on the chair arm. At the head table? At your table. Bianca inhaled. Lucia, you said the center made you tired. Being erased makes me tired, Lucia said. Mara looked down before anyone could see the sudden warmth in her eyes. Nico stood. The room seemed to stand with him. Move the chair, he said. 2 guards stepped forward. Mara blocked them with her body before she thought about whether it was wise. She was not large. She was 5'6" in black service shoes, with a pencil in her bun and a white apron tied twice because the strings were too long. Blocking 2 Bellandi guards should have been ridiculous. She did it anyway. No. The guard stopped because Nico raised one finger. His eyes settled on her again. No? Ask her before you move the chair. Bianca stared at Mara as if the waitress had slapped her. The entire staff seemed to stop breathing. Mara felt fear then. Real fear. It moved along her ribs like a wire. But fear did not always mean stop. Sometimes it simply told the body that the next sentence mattered. Mrs. Bellandi is seated safely, Mara said. The aisle is clear. If she wants assistance, she can say yes. If she wants to wheel herself, she can. If she wants to stay there and make all of you come to her, that is also an option. Nico's face became unreadable. For 3 seconds, no one in the room was richer, poorer, stronger, weaker, engaged, employed, protected, or exposed. There was only a mother in a chair, a son with too much power, and a waitress who had placed a small ivory card where it belonged. Then Nico turned back to Lucia. "Ma," he said, and his voice was lower now. "Would you like help moving to the table?" Lucia looked at Mara. Mara did not nod. She did not smile. She gave the older woman the only thing she had been trying to give her since the card was moved. Space. Lucia looked at her son. "Yes. But not from your guards." Nico swallowed. "From me?" "From you," Lucia said. "And do not push so fast. You always push as if the floor is an enemy." A sound escaped Elias near the service door. It might have been a laugh, or it might have been a dying gasp. Mr. Pell glared at him. Nico looked at his mother for another beat. Then, carefully, he removed his gloves. No one in the room missed the gesture. Men like Nico Bellandi did not remove gloves in public without reason. He handed them to one guard, moved behind his mother's chair, and waited. "Ready?" he asked. Lucia lifted her chin. "Now." He pushed slowly. Mara walked ahead of them, clearing nothing because the path was already clear, only making sure nobody used service as an excuse to crowd. When they reached the head of the table, she pulled back Lucia's chair cushion and adjusted the footrest with practiced hands. "Would you like the tea on your right, Mrs. Bellandi?" she asked. "Yes, please. Lemon beside the cup, not inside." Lucia's eyes flickered. "You remembered. You told me once. Most people hear an old woman and call it noise. That sounds like poor service." Lucia smiled. It changed her whole face. Nico saw it. Mara was careful not to see him seeing it. Dinner, technically, had not yet begun. In truth, it had already become the kind of evening people retold badly for years. The Bellandi family arrived in pieces, cousins with thick watches, an uncle with a cane and colder eyes than Nico's, a niece in a dress too bright for mourning, 2 legal advisors, 3 men Mara suspected were not family but had learned how to smile like cousins. They noticed Lucia at the head table. They noticed Bianca standing behind the second chair with anger hidden under gloss. They noticed Mara replacing wine glasses with the same calm expression she used when children spilled soda on linen. Nobody mentioned the place card. Everyone saw it. Ivory, folded, simple. Lucia Bellandi. Mara kept her team moving. Soup from the left, plates from the right because Mr. Bellandi's uncle had an old shoulder injury, bread baskets paired 2 to a section, water refilled before anyone needed to look for it. She corrected Elias once with a glance and once with a whisper. She intercepted a guest who tried to hand Lucia a menu too heavy for her wrists, replacing it with the smaller printout the kitchen had prepared. She stepped between Bianca and the chair when Bianca reached to adjust Lucia's shawl without asking. "She is cold," Bianca said. "Mrs. Bellandi can tell me if she wants the shawl moved." "Are you going to narrate every service decision?" "Only the ones involving a guest's body." Nico heard that from the far side of the table. Mara felt it by the way the air changed. He watched her now, not constantly, but in a way she could not ignore. His attention had weight. It moved from her hands to his mother's face, from the place card to the service sheet folded at Mara's waist, from Bianca's smile to Mara's refusal to be hurried by it. That should have made Mara nervous. It did. It also made her furious, because she had built an entire life around being useful without being looked at too closely. Men with power noticed women like Mara when they wanted coffee, compliance, or quiet. Nico Bellandi's notice felt different, but difference was not the same as safety. During the soup course, Bianca tried again. "Lucia, you must let me help you with that," she said, reaching for the spoon. Lucia's hand paused. Mara stepped in with the bread plate. Mrs. Bellandi requested the lighter spoon. "She is struggling. She is eating." Bianca's smile sharpened. "Do you always contradict women who are about to become your employer's family?" Mara placed the bread plate down. "I contradict anyone who mistakes assistance for possession." The uncle with the cane gave a low chuckle. Nico did not. Bianca's cheeks colored. "Nico." His eyes stayed on Mara. "Is Ma struggling?" Mara looked at Lucia. Lucia lifted the spoon, slowly but surely, and tasted the soup. "No," Lucia said. "But Bianca is." The uncle laughed outright. Bianca stood very still. Nico's mouth did not move, but something near his eyes changed. Mara turned away before she could decide whether it was amusement. In the kitchen, Chef Lorenzo grabbed her elbow near the pass. He was a big man who treated risotto like a religion and danger like a scheduling problem. "What are you doing?" he hissed. My job. Your job is not to wrestle with Bianca Vale in front of Nico Bellandi. I have not wrestled anyone. I placed a card. Mara. She looked at the pass window, where Lucia's tea waited on a silver tray. Did you make the no-salt broth? Of course. Then let me serve it before someone improves it. He let go, but his voice followed her. That man does not forget public embarrassment. Neither do mothers. When Mara returned, Bianca was leaning close to one of the legal advisors, whispering. The advisor glanced toward Lucia, then toward the empty second place at Nico's right hand. Bianca's card was there. Bianca Vale, written in gold script by the event planner she had brought in and Mara had quietly ignored because Bellafiore did not use gold ink for name cards. Gold ink shed glitter on linen and made wine service look cheap. Nico noticed Mara noticing. Is something wrong with the card? He asked. The table paused again. Mara set Lucia's tea down. The gold ink flakes. One cousin snorted. Bianca's jaw tightened. It was a design choice. It's getting on the bread plate. Nico looked at Bianca's place card. A tiny gold fleck had fallen beside the butter knife. Replace it, he said. Bianca stared at him. Nico. Bellafiore uses black ink. Mara did not smile. She wanted to, badly. Instead, she took the gold card away, replaced it with a plain ivory one, and wrote Bianca Vale in black ink at the service station while half the dining room pretended not to watch. Her handwriting did not tremble. She was proud of that. Her hands had trembled in worse rooms, for worse men, when she was younger and did not yet know that a woman's steadiness could become its own language. When she returned, Nico was speaking with the uncle about ports, construction permits, and a charity clinic. Mara heard only enough to know the conversation had teeth under the tablecloth. The Bellandis spoke politely about money and territory because anything else would have been vulgar. Bianca spoke politely about Lucia because open cruelty would have been vulgar too. We should consider having Lucia rest before dessert, Bianca said. The evening is long, and the press will arrive for the toast. Lucia's fingers tightened on her teacup. Mara saw it. So did Nico, but this time he did not know what to do quickly enough. That, Mara thought, was the problem with men who could solve almost everything by moving faster than other people. They mistook speed for care. They moved chairs before asking. They cleared rooms before listening. They turned love into logistics, then wondered why the people they loved looked tired. Mrs. Bellandi has dessert service on her card, Mara said. Bianca did not look at her. I am speaking with Nico. About a guest who is sitting in front of you. The legal advisor murmured, perhaps staff should let the family manage family matters. Mara turned to him. Then family should stop using staff doors. The table went dead silent. Bianca's face changed. Not much. Just enough. Nico saw it. What does that mean? He asked. Mara's stomach tightened. She had not meant to say it. Not yet. She had been holding the detail like a hot plate, waiting until the right hand could take it. But words, once set down, had to be served. The private dining exit to the kitchen was open twice before you arrived, Mara said. Both times, Mrs. Bellandi's chair was angled toward it. For comfort, Bianca said immediately. For removal, Mara said. You are making accusations because I asked you to do your job. No. I am describing the floor. Nico's voice was quiet. Describe it. Mara drew a breath. Every eye in the room came to her. She thought of her mother, who had cleaned hotel rooms until her knees failed and always said rich people hated being corrected by someone holding a tray. She thought of the rent due next Monday. She thought of Elias, pale by the service station, silently begging her to stop because he was too young to understand that some moments charged interest if you stepped away from them. Mrs. Bellandi's original place was at the head of the table, Mara said. Her tea service, lighter spoon, shawl hook, and chair space were all set there. Before you arrived, Ms. Vale moved the place card and told staff to set Mrs. Bellandi by the fern near the side entrance. The kitchen door was opened before the soup course and again when dessert timing was discussed. The service sheet says Mrs. Bellandi requested dessert at the table. She looked at Bianca. Not in the hall. Bianca's voice was cold. This is absurd. I was trying to spare her the press. Lucia set down her cup. The small sound carried. I asked to be in the photograph, she said. Nico turned toward her slowly. Lucia looked older suddenly, and more dangerous in the way truth became dangerous when someone had been denied it too long. It is your engagement dinner. I asked to be in the photograph at your side. Bianca closed her eyes once. Lucia, the photographers are overwhelming. I buried my husband with 300 men watching, Lucia said. I can survive a camera. No one laughed this time. Nico's face lost color in a way Mara would not have expected from such a controlled man. It was not weakness. It was recognition landing hard enough to bruise. "Who told you she should not be photographed?" he asked Bianca. "No one told me. I used judgment." "Whose?" Bianca's eyes flashed. "Mine. The judgment of the woman who has spent months making this family presentable." There it was. Mara felt it hit the table. Presentable. The kind of word people used when they wanted to remove age, grief, disability, accent, poverty, scar, weight, sorrow, or anything else that made life visible. Lucia Bellandi had been judged unpresentable at her own son's engagement dinner. Nico understood it at the same moment Mara did. The room seemed to shrink around him. One guard shifted behind Bianca. Mara moved before Nico spoke. She stepped between Bianca and Lucia's chair, not because Bianca had moved toward Lucia, but because anger had, and Mara had served enough family dinners to know anger often crossed rooms faster than people. "Mrs. Bellandi's dessert is ready," Mara said. Nico looked at her. For a second she saw the old story in his face, the one people whispered about, Nico Bellandi who could empty a dock with one phone call, Nico Bellandi whose enemies apologized before they were asked, Nico Bellandi who did not forgive insults to his blood. Then his eyes shifted to his mother. Lucia was watching him with a grief that looked practiced. He exhaled. "Serve dessert," he said. Bianca laughed once, sharp and stunned. "That's it?" Nico did not look at her. "No." The word lay on the table like a knife nobody had picked up. "But my mother asked for dessert." Mara could have kissed him for that sentence, which irritated her so much that she nearly dropped the dessert spoon. She did not kiss mafia men. She did not admire them. She did not let one correct sentence undo a life of knowing better. Still, when she passed him with the dessert tray, Nico Bellandi moved his chair back so she had more room. It was a small thing. Mara noticed small things for a living. Dessert was lemon olive oil cake with rosemary cream, because Lucia had asked for something that tasted like the garden her husband had planted behind their first house. The kitchen had made it beautifully, and Mara served Lucia first. Bianca's plate came last. It was petty, perhaps. It was also correct service order. Guest of honor first, host second, engaged guest last because she had not been listed as family on the restaurant booking. Nico noticed that too. The press arrived before coffee. 2 photographers, 1 society columnist, and a young man with a camera who kept looking at the guards as if deciding whether fear made the footage more valuable. They were admitted through the front entrance, not the service corridor, because Mara had told Elias to lock the kitchen door and give the key to Chef Lorenzo. Bianca stood immediately, smoothing her dress. "Lucia, perhaps we should adjust your shawl before the photo." Lucia did not answer. Nico set his napkin down. "Ma?" The single syllable turned every head. Lucia looked from her son to Mara. Mara stood behind the chair with the dessert tray tucked against her hip. She did not move, did not nod, did not urge. The choice had to belong to Lucia, not to the waitress who had defended it or the son who was late to understanding it. Lucia lifted one hand to her shawl. "Mara," she said, "would you pin this on my left shoulder?" Bianca's smile died. Mara set down the tray and stepped forward. Of course. The shawl pin was pearl and black enamel, older than Bianca's ring and far less interested in proving its value. Mara fastened it carefully, avoiding the delicate skin near Lucia's collarbone. "Is that comfortable?" "Yes." "Would you like the chair angled toward the table or toward the camera?" Lucia's eyes glimmered. "Toward my son." Mara adjusted the chair. Nico watched her hands. His own hands, bare now, rested on the table. Without gloves, they looked less like weapons and more like evidence. Faint scars across 2 knuckles, a healed line near the thumb, the signet ring heavy enough to bruise if he struck someone with it. Mara wondered who had taught him to hold everything so tightly. She wondered, then stopped herself. Wondering about a man like Nico Bellandi was how a woman found herself making excuses for storms. The photographer arranged them badly at first. He put Nico in the center, Bianca at his side, Lucia angled slightly behind them as if the old woman were a decorative object. "No," Mara said. The photographer blinked. Bianca snapped, "Excuse me?" Mara looked at Nico. "Mrs. Bellandi asked to be at your side." Nico looked at the photographer. "Put my mother beside me." "Of course, Mr. Bellandi." "Not behind me." "Yes, sir." "And not hidden by Bianca's flowers." Bianca's smile returned through force alone. "Nico, the bouquet is part of the announcement." Lucia spoke first. "Then let the bouquet announce from somewhere else." The uncle with the cane covered his mouth. Mara turned away before she got herself fired for smiling at a mafia mother insulting floral arrangements. The photographer repositioned them. Lucia beside Nico. Bianca on his other side, though not as close as she wanted. The place card remained at Lucia's setting in the foreground. Mara saw the young videographer frame it without understanding why it mattered. He would understand after the story spread. Stories always spread in restaurants. They traveled through dishwashers, drivers, florists, valets, nurses, cousins, mistresses, and women who had been told to sit at the back table once too often. The first photograph flashed. Lucia's hand moved toward Nico's. He looked down and did not grab it. He waited. She took his hand. Mara saw his face change. Not much. Nico Bellandi had spent too long training his face into a locked door. But when his mother chose his hand, the lock gave a little. Bianca saw it too. That was when Mara knew the evening was not over. The second course of disaster came with coffee. Mara was in the service alcove checking espresso cups when Bianca entered without knocking. She had removed her smile. Without it, she looked younger and meaner, less like a future mafia wife and more like a woman who had discovered that beauty did not work on every surface. "You think he is impressed," Bianca said. Mara lifted a demitasse cup to the light. "I think table 12 needs decaf. Do not be cute. I rarely have time." Bianca stepped closer. "You embarrassed me." You moved his mother. "I manage appearances for a family you cannot begin to understand." Mara set the cup down. "Then you should understand how it appears when you hide an old woman by a fern." Bianca's hand came up. Mara caught her wrist. Not hard. Not dramatically. Just enough. Bianca froze, shocked perhaps that a waitress had touched her. Mara was shocked too, but less. In restaurant work, hands came toward you all the time. Drunks, children, angry businessmen, men who thought grabbing a server's elbow made them more important. Mara had learned years ago that a wrist was only a wrist. It could be stopped. "Do not," Mara said. Behind Bianca, the service door opened. Nico stood there. Mara released Bianca immediately and stepped back. Bianca's face transformed with astonishing speed. "She grabbed me." "I saw," Nico said. The two words did not help Bianca. He entered the alcove. It was too small for him. Too small for his guards, who remained outside because he lifted one hand without looking. The espresso machine hissed softly. A tray of clean spoons caught the light. Mara became acutely aware that there was flour on her sleeve from helping Chef Lorenzo with a dropped basket, and that Bianca's perfume had crowded the air until the room smelled like expensive lilies and trouble. Nico looked at Mara. "Did she try to hit you?" Bianca gasped. "Nico." Mara answered before he could look away. She raised her hand. "I stopped it. No one was hurt. You should have called me." "Why?" His brows drew together. Mara knew she should stop. She had corrected him enough for one evening, perhaps enough for one lifetime. But the question had come out because it was honest. "Why would I call you into a service alcove to manage a wrist?" she asked. "I have managed worse with a tray in one hand." Bianca made a sound of disgust. "This is insane." Nico still watched Mara. "Because she is my fiancée. Then she should know not to raise her hand in your mother's restaurant." "This is not my mother's restaurant." "Tonight it is." Silence. Mara felt the room tilt again. She had a gift for walking onto thin ice and then wondering why her shoes were wet. Nico's voice lowered. "Explain." "Your mother asked to be seen. She asked for her chair, her tea, her dessert, her photograph. Every important thing in that room tonight belongs to her because she was the one being erased. If someone raises a hand over that, it is happening in her room." Bianca stared at Mara as if she had invented a new language and used it badly. Nico said nothing. Mara forced herself to breathe. "I should return to service," she said. Bianca laughed. "You should return to unemployment." Nico looked at Bianca then. "Go back to the table." "Nico. Go." It was not shouted. That made it worse. Bianca left. Mara picked up the espresso tray because her hands needed something to do. Nico did not move aside. "You keep stepping between people," he said. "People keep needing space. Do you know who you stepped between tonight?" "Yes." That usually changes a person's answer. "I am tired of giving answers that make powerful people comfortable." His eyes held hers. Mara had expected anger. Men like him, men like every man who had ever mistaken her apron for permission, did not enjoy being told no by women paid to carry plates. But Nico did not look angry in the simple way. He looked unsettled, which was more dangerous and more human. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked. Mara considered lying. Then she considered who she was after a woman had tried to hide another woman at a back table. Yes. Nico's jaw tightened. But not enough to move the card, she said. For one strange second, something almost like admiration passed over his face. He stepped aside. Then finish service, Mara Lane. She carried the espresso tray out with a spine so straight her shoulders ached. Coffee service went badly, though not because of Mara. Bianca returned to the dining room with a calm face and a plan. Mara saw both from across the room. The fiancé leaned toward the society columnist, speaking low. The columnist's eyes darted toward Lucia, then Mara, then Nico. A story was being shaped. Mara could recognize the shaping of stories because restaurants were built from them: who tipped, who drank, who cried in the bathroom, who sent steak back after eating half. Bianca's story would be elegant. An overwrought waitress. A confused old woman. A caring fiancé undermined by staff trying to attract attention. Perhaps even a hint that Mara had touched Bianca first. Mara knew how quickly truth lost when the liar had better shoes. She set espresso in front of the uncle, then Lucia, then Nico. His cup was plain white. Bianca's was the same. Lucia's had a cobalt blue rim because she had once told Mara that dark rims helped her see where the cup ended. Small details. The kind people dismissed until they mattered. Bianca saw the blue rim. Why does Lucia get a different cup? Mara answered while pouring cream. Visibility. It ruins the table. Lucia's hand moved toward the cup. Nico looked at the cup, then the place card, then Mara. Ma chose it? Lucia smiled faintly. Mara suggested it. I said yes. Then it stays, Nico said. Bianca set down her spoon. This entire evening has become a performance for a waitress. Mara felt the words land, but she did not let them show. That was another restaurant skill. People could spill insult into the air the way they spilled wine. You decided whether to mop it now or after they left. Nico turned to Bianca. No. It became a performance because my mother was moved like furniture. I was protecting her. From being seen. From being judged. Lucia's voice came soft and clear. I have been judged by better women. The uncle coughed again. The younger cousin looked into his water glass like it contained salvation. Bianca's face hardened. You are all enjoying this. No, Nico said. I am learning it. Mara stilled. Bianca did not understand. Learning what? Nico looked at his mother. How often I let people do kindness to you without asking whether it was kind. Lucia's eyes shone. Mara looked away because that was a private moment, and private moments were rare in rooms full of money. But Nico's gaze found her again. Mara. Her name and his voice moved through the table like another kind of announcement. Yes, Mr. Bellandi? If my mother wants to leave before the toast, how would she leave? Bianca opened her mouth. Nico lifted one hand without looking at her. She closed it. Mara looked at Lucia. Through whichever door she chooses. And if she chooses the kitchen door? Then she goes through the kitchen door because she wants to, not because someone finds her inconvenient. And if she chooses the front? Then the front door is cleared first, so no one bumps her chair, and someone holds the outer door because the brass handle pulls too hard. Someone? Mara met his eyes. Someone she chooses. Nico nodded once. That was the quiet turn, though Mara did not know the phrase and would have hated it if she did. The shift was not loud. Nico did not sweep the table clean, drag Bianca out, or declare Mara the only honest woman in Chicago. He did something much harder for a man built from command. He asked how to wait. Ma, he said, do you want the toast? Lucia looked at the table, the cameras, the pearl pin at her shoulder, the ivory place card with her name still standing where Mara had put it. Yes, she said. But I want to speak first. Nico's face changed again. Bianca's changed more. Lucia, that is not on the program. Lucia picked up her blue-rimmed coffee cup. Her hand shook a little, but the cup held steady. Neither was being sent to the fern. Nico turned toward the guards. Clear the front of the room. No one leaves. No one enters. And nobody speaks over my mother. The old Nico returned in that sentence. Mara did not mind. Some commands were useful when aimed at the right wall. The guards moved. The photographers adjusted. The society columnist looked thrilled in a way that made Mara suspect the article had just become much better. Bianca stood behind her chair, too proud to sit and too exposed to leave. Lucia waited until the room was ready. Then she spoke. When my husband died, she said, my son thought protection meant removing every hard thing from my path. At first I was grateful. Then I found that the path had been removed too. Nico looked down. No one else did. Lucia continued, "Tonight I asked for a chair at my son's table. I asked for tea I could hold, a spoon I could lift, and a photograph where my face was not hidden behind flowers. These are not large requests. But a room can make a woman feel unreasonable for wanting the small things that prove she is still here." Mara's throat tightened. She kept her hands folded at her apron because service had trained her body to stand still during storms. "A waitress remembered my tea," Lucia said. "She remembered my chair. She remembered that my name belonged where I asked it to be. I want to thank her before everyone who thought kindness meant moving me somewhere quiet." Every head turned. Mara wanted the floor to open, not because she was ashamed, but because being publicly thanked by a mafia mother seemed like the kind of blessing that came with paperwork and enemies. Nico looked at her. His face was no longer unreadable. It was still controlled, still dangerous, but something had opened behind the control. Not softness exactly. Attention. Respect. The beginning of a question he did not yet know how to ask without sounding like a command. "Mara Lane," Lucia said, "thank you for putting my name back." For a moment, Mara could not speak. Then she did the only thing she knew how to do when emotion threatened to undo her in public. She corrected the service. "Your cake is getting cold, Mrs. Bellandi." Lucia laughed. This time Nico did too. It was brief, low, and so surprising that two guards looked at each other as if checking whether they were allowed to have heard it. Dinner ended with a toast that was not the toast Bianca had written. Nico stood beside his mother, not in front of her. His hand rested on the back of her chair, not on her shoulder. He raised his glass after Mara replaced it with a clean one and sniffed it so obviously that Lucia murmured, "Subtle, Nico," and he looked faintly embarrassed. That, too, was interesting. "To my mother," he said. "Who should never have had to ask for a place at my table." The room lifted glasses. Bianca did not. Nico turned toward her. "And to Bianca," he said. Bianca straightened. Some hope, foolish and stubborn, rose in her eyes. "Who taught me tonight that presentation without respect is not family?" The hope died. "This engagement dinner is over." The cameras flashed. Bianca whispered his name. Nico did not look cruel. That made the sentence worse. "You will leave through the front door. You wanted appearances. You may keep one." The uncle with the cane murmured something that sounded like a prayer. Mara looked at the tablecloth because watching a woman lose everything in public, even a woman who had moved Lucia Bellandi to the back table, was not something to enjoy. Power was ugly when it delighted in impact. Mara had spent the evening trying to restore a chair, not build a scaffold. Nico seemed to know it. He did not humiliate Bianca further. He did not list sins for the cameras. He did not let his guards touch her. He simply stepped aside, and for once in her life, Bianca Vale had to cross a room without making it rearrange itself first. At the doorway, Bianca turned. Her eyes found Mara. Mara expected hatred and found it. But beneath it, something else flickered. Fear perhaps. Or the first bitter taste of being looked at without power translating the view. Mara did not soften. She also did not smile. Bianca left. Afterward, the dining room became the strange kind of quiet that followed a broken performance. Guests murmured. Guards spoke into sleeves. The press gathered their equipment with trembling excitement. Chef Lorenzo sent out extra coffee because that was his solution to everything from grief to organized crime. Lucia stayed at the head of the table. Her place card stayed with her. Near midnight, when the family had finally gone and the photographers had taken their hunger for scandal into the street, Mara stood alone in the private dining room collecting the last linen napkins. Elias had offered to help, but she sent him home because he had spent the evening looking like his soul had learned too much. Mr. Pell had apologized without using the word apology. Chef Lorenzo had kissed two fingers and pressed them to the air near Mara's forehead, which was dramatic and kind and made her tell him to go scrub a pan. The room looked ordinary now. Chairs pushed back. Wine stains marked with salt. Forks counted. Candle stubs leaning in silver holders. The place where Lucia had sat was the only setting Mara had not cleared. The ivory card remained. Lucia Bellandi. Mara touched the edge of it with one finger. "You keep touching evidence." She did not jump, but only because pride was faster than nerves. Nico stood in the doorway without his coat. The black suit beneath it fit like a threat. His shirt sleeves were still buttoned, his signet ring still on, but without the overcoat and gloves he looked less like an institution and more like a tired man who had learned something too late. "Restaurants call them place cards," Mara said. "My world calls them evidence. Your world needs better stationery." His mouth moved faintly. He came into the room. Mara picked up a stack of dessert plates. If you are here to fire me on behalf of your former fiancé, Mr. Pell already looked like he might faint, so please give him warning. I am not here to fire you. Good. I have rent. I know. Her eyes narrowed. Do you? No, he said. That was arrogant. The apology was so immediate that Mara almost dropped a plate. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Men like him noticed weakness, exits, hands, hesitation. The difference was that tonight he seemed to be learning that noticing did not have to become ownership. I came to return this, he said. He held out the ivory place card. Mara looked at the table. The card she had touched was gone. You stole a restaurant place card? Borrowed. That is what people say when they steal from restaurants. I wanted to ask before it disappeared into the trash. She set the plates down. Ask what? He looked at the card in his hand. It seemed absurdly delicate between fingers that had probably signed orders and threats with equal pressure. May my mother keep it? Mara's chest tightened unexpectedly. Yes, she said. Of course. She asked for it. Then you did not need my permission. It was your handwriting. That stopped her. The private dining room felt large suddenly, and not large enough. Nico placed the card on the table between them. She said she wanted to remember the woman who wrote her name where she asked. Mara looked at the ink. She had written hundreds of names in that same neat hand, politicians, singers, men whose wives sat at different tables from their girlfriends, women who tipped in cash because their husbands checked cards, children who spilled juice, old couples who split dessert. She had never thought of handwriting as something a person might want to keep. Tell her she can have it, Mara said. Tell her yourself. She looked up. Nico's voice remained even, but the request inside it was not a command. He was trying. Mara had to give him that much. Trying looked strange on him, like a suit not yet tailored. She is in the car, he said. She asked to thank you without cameras. Mara hesitated. Not because she did not want to see Lucia. She did. Because the last time she followed a powerful man outside a restaurant after midnight, years ago, she had been 22 and stupid enough to think charm was character. Nothing terrible had happened, not in the dramatic sense. Only a hand on her back she had not invited, a promise of better shifts if she smiled more, a week of being scheduled for doubles after she refused. Small lessons. The kind that taught a woman to keep doors open behind her. Nico saw the hesitation. He stepped back first. The front door is open, he said. Chef Lorenzo is still in the kitchen. Elias is outside waiting for his ride. My guards will stay by the SUV, not by you. Mara stared at him. He looked uncomfortable. Good. Did you just give me an exit plan? She asked. You told me to ask before moving chairs. I assumed doors were similar. Something in her chest warmed despite her best judgment. That was almost funny. I am told I should not attempt humor without supervision. Who told you that? My mother. Repeatedly. Mara picked up the place card and tucked it carefully into a clean envelope from the host stand. Fine. I will give this to Mrs. Bellandi. Outside, the July night held the city in heat and exhaust. Bellafiore's front awning glowed deep red over the sidewalk. Two black SUVs waited at the curb, engines low. The guards stood far enough away to prove instructions had been given and close enough to prove habit was stronger than trust. Lucia sat in the back seat of the first SUV with the door open, a wool shawl over her knees despite the heat. Mara, she said. No Mrs. Lane. No girl. No waitress. Just Mara. Mara stepped to the curb. Mrs. Bellandi. Lucia, if you can bear it. I think we have survived enough furniture together. Mara smiled. Lucia. She handed over the envelope. Lucia opened it and looked at the place card for a long time. My husband used to write my name on napkins when we were too poor for reservations, she said. He said a woman should never have to wonder if there was room for her. Nico stood beside the open door, looking at the pavement. Mara did not look at him. He sounds like he understood service, she said. Lucia laughed softly. He understood hunger. Service came later. She placed the card in her handbag with care. Then she reached for Mara's hand. Mara gave it. Lucia's fingers were cool and thin, but her grip had not surrendered. My son has many men who fear him. He has many women who flatter him. He has very few people who correct him without wanting something. I wanted you at your table. That is something. Not from him. Lucia's eyes shone with approval. Exactly. Nico glanced up then. Mara felt his gaze, but Lucia held her hand, and the older woman's attention mattered more. Will you come to lunch this week? Lucia asked. Mara blinked. I work lunches. Not as staff. Nico shifted. Ma. Lucia ignored him with the ease of long practice. As a woman who remembers tea, Mara did not know how to answer that. She was not part of their world. She did not want to be collected like an interesting object because she had been brave once under chandeliers. But Lucia's request did not feel like collection. It felt like an old woman opening a chair and asking before she moved it. Maybe, Mara said. Lucia smiled. Good. Maybe is not no. It is also not yes. I like her, Lucia told Nico. I noticed, he said. Try not to ruin it by becoming impressive. One of the guards coughed into his fist. Mara looked down to hide a smile. Lucia squeezed her hand once and released it. Go home, Mara. Women who stand through family dinners should be paid double and allowed to sleep. I agree with your policy. See? Lucia said to Nico. She has sense. Nico closed the car door gently after his mother settled back. The SUV did not leave. Mara stood under the awning with her hands folded around nothing. The place card was gone. The evening should have felt finished. Nico turned to her. Thank you, he said. The words were simple. Too simple, perhaps, for the size of what had happened. But simple words could still be difficult for certain men. Mara had learned that too. You're welcome. I owe you an apology. Only one? He looked down, and this time the movement at his mouth was definitely almost a smile. Several. We can start with the chair. The chair was not yours to move. I know that now. Do you? He did not answer quickly. Mara appreciated that more than she wanted to. I know I should have known it before a waitress had to tell me, he said. Lead waitress. Lead waitress, he corrected. The night traffic hissed past. Somewhere down the block, a couple argued about a rideshare. From the kitchen door came Lorenzo's voice singing off-key in Italian, which meant he had decided the danger had passed or that opera made him immortal. Nico took a card from his inner pocket. Not a business card. A folded cream note, blank except for a phone number written by hand. Mara did not take it. His hand remained extended for 1 second, then lowered. Good, she said. He looked at the note as if it had betrayed him. Good. You noticed I did not take it. I did. And you did not push it into my hand. I am learning doors. And cards? Slowly. Mara reached out, took the note, and tucked it into her apron without looking at the number. Nico watched the motion. If you call, he said, my mother will answer first. Mara laughed before she could stop herself. It surprised both of them. That is either very comforting or very manipulative, she said. Both can be true in my family. At least you know. Mara. Her name again. Less announcement this time. More question. She waited. Would you let me reserve a table here tomorrow? You own half the block. You can reserve a table anywhere. That is not what I asked. He was learning too fast. It was inconvenient. Mara folded her arms. For yourself? For my mother. Good answer. And for me. Riskier answer. And if you are working, I would like your section. That sounds like a bad idea. It may be. Why ask? Nico looked through the restaurant window, where the private dining room lights still glowed and the head table was finally empty. Because tonight I learned that I do not know where the people I love want to sit. I would like to start with a table I did not command into existence. Mara said nothing. It was a good answer. She hated that. Call the restaurant after noon, she said. Ask for Mr. Pell. Request a regular table, not private dining. If your guards block the aisle, I will move them. I believe you. If your mother wants the head table, ask her. I will. If you bring cameras, I will spill soup on you. Intentionally? Professionally. He nodded gravely. Understood. The warmth in her chest became dangerous enough that she stepped back. Good night, Mr. Bellandi. Nico, he said. She looked at him. The correction stood between them, not forced, not entitled, simply offered. Good night, Nico, she said. His eyes changed again at the sound of his name in her mouth. Mara turned before she could decide whether she liked that change. She went back inside, locked the front door after the SUVs pulled away, and found Chef Lorenzo pretending not to watch from the bar. No, Mara said. He lifted both hands. I said nothing. Your eyebrows said a novel. My eyebrows are Italian. Mop something. He laughed and handed her a clean towel. By 2 a.m, Bellafiore smelled of lemon cleaner, extinguished candles, coffee grounds, and the faint ghost of rosemary cake. Mara changed out of her apron in the staff room, took the cream note from the pocket, and looked at the number. Under it, in smaller handwriting, was another line. My mother says to ask where you want to sit. Mara sat on the bench and read it twice. Then she folded the note and put it in her bag, not because she had decided anything, but because some things did not belong in the trash after one hard night. The next afternoon, Bellafiore received a reservation request under Lucia Bellandi's name. Not Nico's. Lucia requested a regular table by the window, 2 chairs, 1 space for her wheelchair, chamomile tea with lemon beside the cup, and 1 extra place card left blank until arrival. Mr. Pell read the request 3 times, then brought it to Mara as if it were a court summons. Do you want me to assign someone else? He asked. Mara looked at the blank place card. She thought of Bianca moving Lucia's name as if dignity were a centerpiece that could be rearranged. She thought of Nico removing his gloves before pushing his mother's chair. She thought of Lucia saying a woman should never wonder if there was room for her. No, Mara said. I'll take it. Mara. It's a table, Mr. Pell. Nothing involving that family is just a table. She picked up the black pen. Then we should set it properly. At 7, Lucia arrived first. No press. No fiancé. No family council disguised as dinner. 1 driver, 1 guard who stayed near the entrance until Lucia told him he was blocking the view, and Nico walking beside his mother's chair with both hands visible and no gloves. Mara met them at the host stand. Good evening, Lucia. Mara. Your table is ready. Lucia looked at the blank place card. You left it empty. I did not know what name you wanted on it. Lucia's smile widened. Excellent. She looked at Nico. He looked at his mother, then at Mara. May I? He asked. Mara handed him the pen. He wrote slowly, not with the smooth arrogance of a man signing orders, but with care. Lucia Bellandi. Then he paused and looked at Mara. And the second? Mara's breath caught. Lucia pretended to examine the window. Nico held the pen, waiting. Not pushing. Not deciding. Not commanding a chair into place. Mara took the pen from him and wrote her own name on the blank card. Mara Lane. She placed it across from Lucia, not beside Nico, not where gossip would have arranged her, but where she could see the older woman and the room and the door. Nico noticed. Of course he noticed. Is that where you want to sit? He asked. Mara looked at the table, the card, the woman smiling by the window, and the man learning that power did not make every answer his to give. For tonight, she said. Nico pulled out the chair. Then he stopped, hand on the back, and waited. Mara almost smiled. Yes, she said. You may move the chair. He did. Slowly. Lucia laughed softly into her tea. The room did not rearrange itself around Nico Bellandi that night. It rearranged itself around a question. Where do you want to sit? And for the first time in a very long time, every woman at the table was allowed to answer.